Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Flames. Today, we are here for a Wranglers roundup with Stef Bastinck, and we are just going to talk all about a positive change of scenery for once here on Locked On Flames.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. I am joined by the biggest Calgary Wranglers fan in the Northeast. Stef, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on
Oh
this
my
podcast.
goodness, of course. There is no one else I would rather talk Wranglers with, and I think that you are probably logging the most Wranglers hours out of anyone out there outside of Calgary, and I figured it'd be great to bring in. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Stef, you are notorious on Twitter. So why don't you tell
I
us?
have a reputation.
Yeah, but why don't we hear who you are straight from the source and not Twitter?
So I'm probably the biggest Kevin Rooney fan there is in the NHL space. I tweet a lot about him. I tweet a lot about the teams that he's on, whether it's the Devils, the Rangers, now the Flames and the Wranglers. But away from social media, I am a sports communications student. Hopefully to get into social media. I'm a social media contributor right now for the sports network that covers my school sports, and hopefully I can turn that into a career in social media in the NHL.
You know, there's something very exciting about working in social media as a whole. But when you get to do it for, something you're truly interested in, like sports, it doesn't make it feel like work. So we're just gonna keep rooting for you. And you're still in school. There's a million different doors to open, and you're gonna kick down every one of them. But I thought to start today's episode, we could kind of talk about where the Stockton Heat are or not the Stockton Heat. Oh my god, the Calgary Wranglers are. I was looking at my notes and saw Stockton, so automatically my brain, right? But they did move. They relocated from Stockton to Calgary over this past off season, and this has been a big deal, I think. Obviously for getting fans in the seats and seeing the next prospects that'll crack the NHL roster if by 30, if they're under 6 feet. And it's been fun watching them. And what's kind of your take on things?
So to me, honestly, I feel like they could be filling the seats some more. I've noticed on the broadcast, like a lot of empty seats. I think they've only had a couple sellouts where they've had to open the upper bowl because usually the upper bowl is totally closed for
Mm.
Wranglers games. And it honestly surprised me considering that the team did move to the same city where their big club is. And especially with all the roster shuffling that the Flames have been doing recently, calling up Phillips, who is I'm pretty sure is still the leading scorer in the AHL. And they just have so much exciting talent down there. And I just wish that more Flames fans would, come out to a Wranglers game and support them if they're local to the Calgary area, because I think they could really use some more support. They're just absolutely on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you say that, I know growing up going to Providence Bruins games, it was kind of the same thing because, a lot of times people they're lazy, they don't wanna drive, I get it, but you get, those fun, school vacation week breaks, and you get to go see the Wranglers then, and a lot of times, they can have, special promos, but, you know, you really are able to see the future of the NHL, at a reasonable price. I mean, I don't know, uh, truly ticket prices how they are in Calgary other than, what I've jokingly looked at, but It's been a big difference from trying to go to a game in Boston or, in the New York area. So you might as well just go watch the baby Flames. And it's a huge deal too, I think, for the coaches and the scouts and the general manager to be able to split their time and not having to worry about being in two places at once, because these teams will never play at the
Yeah.
same time on the same, and that's kind of the luxury of it. I think it's, I know some people who work around the AHL, and Sutter's at almost every AHL game. Maybe it's to watch his son or to do some scouting, probably a little bit of both, but, I think it's beneficial, and hopefully, especially now that there's less COVID stuff and protocols and you don't have to worry about international traveling, it also just makes call-ups a heck of a lot easier, and the Flames have got to watch out for these baby Flames because they, like, if you put these guys on, like, ESPN Plus or Sportsnet, you are going to have a lot more fun watching them
Yeah.
than, like a 5-2 loss to Detroit. And, right now they're 34-12-2.
They're
34-12-2.
on top of the AHL, they're on top of the Pacific Division. They're just I like to say that it's like watching an NHL team play AHL teams because they're so cohesive. They're getting shots like down right in front of the net. Like so they look like they're in the playoffs every night because they're just
That's the thing. There's, like, urgency, and there's
yeah.
this emotion and desire, and it's so frustrating. Like, you watch them, and then you watch, like, these guys making, like, 8, 9, $10 million. I'm like, "Where give us something,
Yeah.
please." But, I also wonder how much of that has to do with a lot of the Flames roster kind of being a little bit older, or the Wranglers roster being a little bit older, and, I get it. There really hasn't been much room to crack the roster, but I'm thinking this summer it's going to be the time to kind of split it open and let let the Wranglers graduate to the
Let the
Flames.
kids play.
Yes. And, I know that obviously there's the jokes about Daryl Sutter not wanting the kids to play, but especially if Brad Treliving gets extended here, I think we're going to see potentially a shift in dynamic of Treliving just taking back their reins and saying, "No, no, no, no. This is my team."
A big thing was Phillips getting called up and, not really being in the lineup or having such limited minutes, and that is something I wanna set the record straight. People talk about his size. I watch him every other night, sometimes 2 nights in a row, because they play a lot of back-to-backs down in Calgary. Down in Calgary. Um, down with the Wranglers, but I've seen Phillips absolutely hold his own. I've
Yeah.
seen him jump into scrums. I've seen him hit a guy back if a guy tries to take advantage of his size and try to, push him around a little bit. And I think that just shows with him being the leading scorer. He can absolutely hold his own. Like maybe he's not going to be one of those guys who can lay people out on the ice, but he doesn't get knocked off the puck. He is really I think he could definitely hold his own in an NHL lineup if he gets the minutes and the right line mates.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not a coincidence that he's, leading the AHL once again in scoring, or even the Wranglers. So, we're gonna talk more about the player highlights coming up next, and, some really big, important things to keep an eye on, especially if you are interested in, prospects or you wanna learn more. But before we do that, I do want to take a quick break and talk about our friends at Built Bar. If you have been around for a little while now, you've known that Built Bar is a very, very good friend of ours here at Locked On, and they have the most delicious tasting protein bars that tastes like a candy bar without all the quote unquote negative things in a candy bar. You get your protein, you get your fiber, you get your low calories, your low carbs and sugars. You get everything, and you're not tasting a sandpaper protein bar. I've had those. Steph, I'm sure you've had them too. Just
Yeah.
not, you bite into it and you're like, I think I'm eating drywall. But you don't have to worry about that with Built Bar, because they are delicious and covered in 100% real chocolate. And yeah, no, that's real chocolate. So you can get some of their unbelievable, amazing flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond, and get 17 grams of protein in one bar. And that's almost a full recommended serving size. So hey, that's a great way to hold yourself over to watch the Wranglers or Flames after dinner. But right now, you can head on down to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and pick up a pack of Built Bar right in the pharmacy section. Or if you're like me and sometimes need to order things online to feel something inside, you can head to built.com today to order a box of your favorite flavors, and that's cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs, or churro and brownie batter. Who doesn't love brownie batter?
So good.
So, but I was so excited when you agreed to talk Wranglers with me because, like I said, you are the biggest Wranglers fan in the Northeast.
I'm sure of it.
I would put money on it. I truly would. I know I'm not watching them
$8
every
a month worth it somehow.
night. Seriously. What have been some of your biggest, takeaways from this roster?
So, like I said, it's honestly like watching an NHL team take on AHL teams every night. And in the AHL, there's really no lines. There's no like first line, second line. They all usually play around the same amount of minutes. Can, differ a little bit if you're on special teams and whatnot. But really, anyone can play with anyone on that roster. I've seen line shuffles happen depending on what's going on in the game, and really just everyone has chemistry with one another. I don't know if that's off ice building, team building or what it is, but I've just seen everyone just have chemistry with everyone. It's crazy. And the goalies,
The goalies.
yeah,
Children.
Dustin Wolf's having a stellar season. He was an all-star. Looking at my notes here, he has a .929 save percentage. Crazy.
What is
In
a
the
save
AHL.
percentage of 900 in this Flames organization?
And Oscar Danks too. I think he brings, a lot of NHL experience down to the AHL. And it's like watching a bunch of Stanley Cup champions out there, I swear to God.
Wow. That is
I can't
some
say enough about the Wranglers.
Yeah, no, like, and you mentioned that off ice chemistry, and you can see it in like their social media posts through the
Yeah.
Wranglers main Instagram page. Like they're so fun. They're energetic, and you can tell they're not just playing it up, because there's some players that they'll go out there and social media person is literally just trying to do their job and they just walk
Yeah.
right by. No, like they're feeding into it, they're playing, they're excited, like whatever. And I think that it's important to have that kind of chemistry off ice, because it does translate into on ice performance as well. Because the way that I can kind of relate to it is like, okay, you're in a group project. You don't want it to be stiff and stuffy and people just to be like, okay, like we'll get together for 2 hours in the library. No, like let's hang out at someone's apartment and do this, and just get to know each other casual and still work on it, but like you can riff off each other and have a good time. And I think especially with this team being so deep with talent, it's important that they play off each other and are able to elevate each other in that sense, because realistically, I don't see this being the Wranglers roster next year. I see, maybe some trades, maybe some promotion. You don't know. I don't know.
Even with, like, their ECHL, like, call-ups, even
Mhm.
those they've just filled right in, blended right in. It's like the roster hasn't even changed.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty sure it was Adam Klapka who was called up for a game this season, and his first game, he's, like, throwing punches, and I'm like, "Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
okay, sure, make yourself
he
known,
got
that's fine,
he
like,
got
do your thing."
promoted to the first line the other night. I was watching him throw his body around. He's
He
he's a
knew,
unit.
you know, that is what Daryl Sutter likes to hear,
Yeah,
and I just like, I'm looking at this roster right now, and there are Connor Zary, I'm pretty sure missed most of last year, due to a broken leg that he suffered, but it's great to see him second on the team in points. He has 14 goals and 29 assists with 43 points. That's pretty good. I mean,
yeah.
it's really nice to see, especially Cole Schwint too, who came over in the Matthew Tkachuk trade, just kind of flourish. We love to see it.
Yeah. Those 2 guys, they're great on the power play. They get shots really close to the net. They're always close to the crease, trying to make deflections and whatnot. They're great. Everyone's great.
Paul Schwint, can we call you up to the NHL? Right now. Right now. We need you. And that's kind of something we've talked about on this show a lot is how they don't have a finisher anymore. They don't
Yeah.
have someone down low like a Kachuk or a Gaudreau. So they need something right there. And if why go out and spend millions of dollars when you can promote from within? And I think
Exactly.
that's just, the most common sense thing to do. But again, I don't run an NHL team for a reason.
Not to bring up my favorite player, but, Rooney is a huge net front presence. That's
Yes.
where he's parked every shift, he parks right in front of the goalie. Sometimes it gets him into trouble, sometimes it gets him, a little cross check, a little shove, but, he's always trying to provide that screen, maybe a deflection here or there, but, that's where he's parked for most of his shifts.
And he does really well on the penalty kill, which I don't know if you watched last night's game, but there was a little problem on the penalty.
Yeah. So, what I actually feel like a big problem with the Flames is that they got guys doing double duty, like triple duty on the power play, 5 on 5, and the penalty kill, and I'm just like, if you had just a staple guy like Rooney in the lineup to be that penalty kill
Mhm.
force, you wouldn't have these guys doing triple duty every night, you know?
It's
Um,
brutal.
and not to toot my own horn, but the penalty kill did go from 5th in the league to 1st in the league with the addition of Rooney onto the penalty kill for the Wranglers.
Now listen, once again, I don't run this team. I have no stake there's a reason I am employed to sit here 5 days a week and talk about this team. But if I saw that and I'm seeing some performances in the NHL, at the NHL level that I'm not liking, we don't even have to say it because we all know who it is at this point, but scratch him again and call up the Rune Dog. I mean, like, there's a reason why they signed him, and they're paying him, I think, like, $1.2 million for the next 2 years.
Mhm.
So why not utilize him?
Like, you're not signing a guy like Rooney to score 30 goals. You're signing
No,
him to help out defensively, win those important face-offs, if you
the
got the
faceoff king,
goalie pulled and you need a face-off win in the offensive zone, like, and you sign him to kill penalties because
right,
that's really his best asset is the penalty killing. He knows when a guy's gonna pass. He knows when he's gonna send it back to the point. He knows all those things. It's like he's reading the minds of all these people on the power play. He's
right,
just
and that's an intangible that you can't just, like, sit here like, there's no stat to tell me, like, a guy's hockey IQ.
yeah.
I wouldn't know how to calculate that. I'm sure someone could come up with a formula, but no, I think that, a lot of people were concerned with the Kevin Rooney signing in the offseason. But again, when I saw it, I was like, that means Steph's coming over, number one. I'm excited. And then my second reaction was like, oh my God, depth. Like, great third, fourth line guy who can do something. And that
That's what
fourth
I
line,
was
Mr.
excited
Trevor.
for too.
Yeah.
I was excited because I was like, I knew Daryl was, a coach who's very big on role players.
Yeah.
He's just not gonna fill his team with like all stars up and down the lineup. But obviously it hasn't really worked out the way it could have. But he's really a guy you could just call up, throw him into the lineup, see what he does. It's not
Yeah.
gonna hurt anyone.
No, and the universe knew that you would be too powerful if Kevin Rooney came in here after like the summer you had. Like, we couldn't let you enter your reputation era just yet. So we're leading up to it. But all the best with all of our little baby flames. And coming up next, we are going to talk about our winners and losers of the week. And thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us today on Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and you can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto, and you can follow our wonderful guest, Stef, at Stef Speaks Sports. But you have to pass like the vibe check before you get to follow her, and that's fine. I think that's fair. So, who do you have? I'll let you pick. Do you want to start with winners or losers?
I'll start with winners. Losers, I got to think about a little
Okay.
bit.
Who is your winner of the week?
It has to be the Bruins.
I know.
Last night, I was watching the Devils game, and the ESPN commentators, they were wishing adversity on the Bruins. They were they said adversity has to happen to the Bruins at some point, and I think that was a threat.
Yeah, honestly, I think their biggest knock on wood adversity has been Jake DeBrusk breaking his leg and them going on like a 4-game losing streak. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, my boyfriend and I are Bruins fans. And whenever, the Bruins, like, they fall down, like, they lose one game. They lost, like, their first home game in regulation in, like, December. And he's like, I can't believe this. This is so bad. I'm like, have you tried watching a Flames game? Have you witnessed a 7-game losing streak? Have you watched a power play shift?
Have you watched the Flames lose at TD Garden?
Literally. No, last time we went, he saw his Bruins got shut out 4-0, and I was like, let's go. But no, like, in all seriousness, like, God, like, I love the Bruins, but at the same time, covering a team that's just like not performing well, I'm like, oh my God, I hate you so much.
We need the downfall of every other team.
Yeah, no. So is your primary team the Devils because you're in tri-state area?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much the Devils.
How do you feel about Timo Meier potentially being a Devil?
It's hard because I don't want to trade anybody. Even from the Utica Comets, I'm like, I don't want to see anyone go. But also, we need a guy like him.
Yeah.
Jack Hughes has put the team on his back. He's climbing up a steep mountain.
He's doing the best he can.
Yeah.
But I think my winner of the week, truly, like, this isn't sports related. It's just been a lot of discourse I have seen online. And it's anyone that's fighting, like, any sort of battle or dealing with, like, life. Because life is a lot. And there was a lot of talk yesterday about how mental illness makes you unfit to work this job. And with Senator Fetterman going into a clinic to get treated for depression. Like, listen, I'm sorry, I'm about to go on a rant real Number one, there's already so much stigma around mental health. Like, we need to just kind of cut it out. We need to just being able to say, like, hey, I need help is a lot harder than it actually sounds. And for a grown man who is in the public eye to do it, that takes a lot of strength. And I think that, regardless of your political affiliation, it is a very big deal to, kind of face your demons and realize like, oh, okay, like I can't do this on my own. And that's okay. And you're perfectly fine for getting help. And we have another special guest today for those on YouTube. My cat has joined us. Can you say hi? No, you're gonna beat me. But yeah, no, just keep going, keep your head up. You've got this. Now, just like completely dog on people. Do you have your losers of the week?
Honestly, I'm gonna let you go first with the loser of the week.
Listen, I don't think people are gonna like this, but like Alan Walsh, his tweet last night, tell me why I had people texting me at 2:00 in the morning asking about it. Bro, I don't know. I'm asleep. Okay. Number one. Alan Walsh, I think it's a strong personality. There's a reason he has his own podcast. There's a reason why he's so popular on Twitter. That picture of Marc-Andre Fleury with the sword going through him, like that will never be topped, or I don't think another agent would log online and do something like that. And then Sutter addresses it today and is like, yeah, no, people like in the room like don't care. But then in the same breath, I'm like, Milan Lucic has like half of us blocked. So what is the truth there? But like as an agent to like, that's like throwing your client under the bus, basically saying like, oh, kind of sounds like it makes it sound like they've had conversations where, Huberdeau maybe not be having fun. I don't think that's the case. Yeah. But, it's just very, puts your client in a very uncomfortable situation and is kind of.
It seems like he's, breaking the confidentiality that players think they have with their agents.
Yes.
And like breaking the trust a little bit.
And you're a lawyer. That lawyer-client confidentiality.
Yeah.
But has anyone come to mind for you?
I guess I'll take it since you took the winners into a non-hockey sense. I'll take the loser in that direction. People who are mean to other people just because they like something.
Yes.
It might not be your cup of tea, but it's someone else's cup of tea. And I just think we should stop, belittling people for their interests.
Yes. Like I see this all the time, especially growing up like a One Direction girly. Like
me too.
The amount of times like grown men in my life would be like, oh, so you're going to see One Direction? Like, my brother in Christ, you literally paint your chest to go see a football game. And I might enjoy something that Steph doesn't. Mm-hmm. And that's okay because it's not harming her in any way. And sometimes, yeah, guess what? I might find something a little cringe. Like, I don't know, like something random. She might not like that I sit and watch RuPaul's Drag Race for 3 hours while I'm doing my homework or like getting stuff together for the show. But she's not going to let me know that because she's a kind human being. She might not like my emotional support fourth liner, Anders Bjork, hanging out in Rochester. And if she says something, okay, that's not nice. Or if I say something to her, Steph, I don't like the way you have your coat hanger over your door.
Get out.
What does that accomplish? Truly, what does that accomplish?
Well, yeah, what does it accomplish by making someone feel bad about the stuff that they like? It's like you're not changing the world by, insulting someone for something.
Right. Like there's a difference between like joking around like before we got on to record. I was like, you need to move your Garrett Cole jersey. Like, that's just because I'm a Red Sox fan. It's not. I don't care that Steph likes Garrett Cole.
But notice the Garrett Cole jersey is gone.
Yeah, and it's gone. I bullied her into moving it. But it's just this is probably a good time to tell everyone. Yeah, we're starting a Patreon exclusive podcast.
Yeah.
Just so we can riff on pop culture things, but pop culture and hockey and real life stuff, but it's just one of those things where you don't have to share everything. You don't have to, rag on someone because you need validation through likes and retweets, and hosting a space just to dog on people on Twitter, or like really, unless it's like a professional athlete, like please get a job.
Get a
I can
hobby,
link you to
please.
some. But in all seriousness, Steph, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you once again for having me
Of
anytime.
course. And where can everyone find you on social media?
You can find me at Steph Speaks Sports on Twitter, if I ever come off private. Or you can find me at Steph Elizabeth with an S, not a Z, on Instagram.
I never realized it's with an S.
It is with an S. Very unique,
That
very
is.
unheard of.
No, I like that. That is very cool. But thank you everyone for hanging out with us today on Locked On Flames. Remember to subscribe, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, leave a nice little comment in the YouTube comment section. Where the Flames are playing the Rangers tomorrow night. I will be on Game Over over on the Steve Dangle Podcast Network. So if you want to hear me at like 1 o'clock in the morning, just rambling about the Flames more than likely losing, head on over there and we'll see y'all on Monday.